Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. My name is Cheryl Babin, and I'm excited to welcome you to our second in a series around teaching the grade 2 and 3 new science curriculum. And today's session is all about resources. I know often teachers like to dig in and find those gems and find those good pieces that will not only work for one particular outcome, but try to find them that will bridge the gaps and find engaging and interesting things. So I hope to have been able to do that for you today, save you a little bit of digging time, and we'll hope to spark a few ideas of your own. So I have a link to the slides available for you here on the first slide. It's a bit.ly link, and it's 2-3 science-resources. Lots of hyphens there. I'm just going to post that into the chat for you. So you can click right onto that. So please feel free. I did get a question from somebody who was trying to keep the copy. It's a view-only version of the slide deck. And what you'll want to do in that case, if you wanted to keep a copy for yourself, is you can go up to the File menu here in Google, on the Google slide deck. And if you click on Make a Copy, you can copy the entire presentation for your own files, or alternatively, you can download the whole thing as a PowerPoint or a PDF. So that will allow you to keep a copy. I'm hoping you do want to do that because it's got something good for you in there. And so I hope you had a good day today. Welcome to use the chat at any time, and please make sure that you turn on your mics and let me know if there's something that you need at any time. And if everyone is ready, we will get started. So for those of you that have just joined, I'm just going to pop that into the chat again for you. Okay, thank you. Welcome. Today, I'd like to start with another reference, another piece of inspiration that I found in braiding sweetgrass for young adults. And I really loved this book, and it was really inspired by the ways in which it helped to bridge the idea of scientific knowledge and an Indigenous way of looking at the world, and that reciprocity that exists within their worldview. And so this particular excerpt comes right from the Braiding Sweetgrass for Young Adults by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and it's called the Haudenosaunee Thanksgiving Address. Now, the Thanksgiving address it's basically a nod to gratitude and reciprocity, as opposed to a settler's view of Thanksgiving, which would often be celebrated during the harvest, although you might see some commonalities in the thankfulness and the gratefulness. So please join me as we think about acknowledging the land in a really important way. I'd like to start by saying that as we go to express our gratitude, I'd just like to let the 24,000 people who are displaced from their homes today know that we are thinking of them, and just to recognize how our land is everything, and the ways in which we take care of the land and take care of each other and continue to be advocates and stewards of the land, how we can learn from our Indigenous colleagues and friends. And as a white settler myself, how I just really want to make sure that I learn everything I can to impact my practice as an educator, to try to decolonize the work that we are doing. And so I hope that you will think about those affected by the wildfires, not just in Alberta, but across Turtle Island today. And as we think about this Haudenosaunee Thanksgiving address. Let us bring our minds together as one, as we send greetings and thanks to each other as people in these gathered faces. We see that the cycles of life continue. Thanks to our Mother Earth, for she gives us everything that we need for life. The waters of the world that nurture life for all beings and all of the fish life in the water. The vast fields of plant life, the berries, the trees, and the medicine herbs of the world. The edible plants that we harvest from the garden, especially the Three Sisters. The beautiful animal life of the world and the birds who move and fly above, over our heads. The powers we know as the four winds who purify the airs that we breathe and help to bring the change of seasons. Our grandfathers, the thunder beings who live in the west with their lightning and thundering voices. Our eldest brother, the sun, our oldest grandmother, the moon, and the stars who are spread across the sky like jewelry. The enlightened teachers who have come to help throughout the ages. And we now turn our thoughts to the Creator, our Great Spirit, and send greetings and thanks for all of the gifts of creation. Now our minds are one. I've decided to approach resources today with that Indigenous lens and that Indigenous perspective of trying to weave multiple ways of knowing into all of the choices that we've made today. And there are so many resources that are that will activate this science curriculum. I think you're going to be really excited. I know I am. And so I've created, I tried to narrow my scope to a top 10, but not just any old top 10. These are not necessarily in order from first to last or best to not as best, but rather just 10 gold nuggets that I think will be worth your time. And I hope to offer some ideas for how you might choose to use it. And in doing so, I'd also like to welcome you to use the chat or pop on your mics at any time to throw out your ideas for how you might choose to use it as we're going through the resources that I've selected for you today. Sound okay? Please jump in, whether you are, if you're here in live mode, as you say, and those for you of you that are catching the recording, I hope you'll enjoy. So in order to sort of reference the science outcomes that I've selected for these particular examples and within each resource, I've referenced an Alberta Regional Professional Development Consortia document, which has numbered the science outcomes for K to 6. And even though we only have to implement at this point in K to 3, the curriculum from K to 6 is included in this document. And in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the legend that explains how this is coded. So the first letter is the grade. The organizing idea will be matter or energy or living systems, all of those. And then the learner outcome and the row of understanding. So you'll see at the bottom of each screen or slide that I share, you will see examples of where the outcomes have come from. And I hope that you will find that helpful. So before we dig into those resources, I really just want to come right back to the idea that learning is not the product of teaching. Learning is the product of the activity of learners. So whenever and every single time that you take one of these resources, we would encourage you to really find ways to make it as hands-on, as experiential as possible, particularly in this discipline in science as a subject. We want kids to get dirty. We want them to get messy. We want them to hold on to their learning, to play with it, to talk. And so if you think about this cycle, that experience and being involved in the doing of the learning is really important. So engage them where you can in something that's hands-on. It doesn't have to always be messy, but it could be just some sort of manipulative that sort of approaches students from the heart, the hands, and the head. We want to keep them really active as possible. After they've had a chance to get in there and use their hands or experience something, then that's the best time to get them talking. Then going into that sort of mode where they're writing or drawing or questioning or labeling, back to the doing again, and then back to talking. So we want to intersperse those, the experience with the ways in which we can kind of track and document what kids are capturing and how they're starting to understand what the learning is all about. So in following John Holt's work, let's see how these resources can really help us. The first resource, number 10, not in any particular order on the list, is from Let's Talk Science. And many of you may have experienced this resource or this organization before. You'll see at the bottom that for these two particular examples, I've cited the learning outcomes that come direct where they connect. Okay, and so for many of the resources that I'm sharing today, you may have to give up an email address and a little bit of information about yourself, but I've really worked hard to select resources that don't cost anything. So I did give my email into a few of these different places to get access to some of the resources, but I haven't paid any money for any subscriptions or anything. So I hope you'll like that idea. And so if you'll notice on each of these slides, not only the title, but each image is hyperlinked so that you can bounce directly to the resource. And the Let's Talk Science website is really comprehensive. One thing that I love about it is that you can actually go right in and search for resources based on your grade and what you're looking for. So here you can go, you can see in the top right-hand corner, find resources by curriculum, and we can choose Alberta, and they're all updated for the new science curriculum. Yes, fabulous. So if you happen to be grade 3, you can see that you can source the Alberta science curriculum and then open it up for a search, and you get these great opportunities to check into a few different things. Now, many of them are actually applicable in multiple grade levels, which works directly with the organizing ideas that we talked about last week in terms of how those concepts will continue to build on each other and spiral through the different grade levels. And so it's a great site in terms of its accessibility, and the quality of the resources is very strong. Here's one example that I thought was interesting, sound versus noise. And so for teachers, that's a good one, right? But you can see here that when you click into the resource, there's a little bit of background information for us as teachers so that we can use some of those different aspects. It hyperlinks to different resources that you can use, and it gives you some ideas of like decibel scale and where different things are. You could actually use this to monitor your classroom noise at times, right? But so it gives you a bit of background information as well as student materials that you may like to check out. And so that one corresponds with students investigating the behaviors of light and sound. And I totally loved this idea here. It's called The Hidden Heroes of Hockey. And it's really about, I thought it linked beautifully to students investigating and analyzing how materials can change. And so the way that this one works is it goes into the science of ice rinks. And there's a technical video that talks about how they have to freeze and melt and refreeze and keep the temperature, and then scrape and manipulate and do that so that it can be technically useful, and how they do that resurfacing. So just using something that might connect to kids, and I don't know, maybe you could find ways to get them to make their own little mini ice rink, or maybe they have to try to manipulate the materials in different ways. And we know that you've got lots of ways that they can make sound and noise. So that's the first resource that I thought you should check out. Let's Talk Science. It will work in almost all of your organizing ideas. Learning through play. Now, this one was actually a link that I found off of the Lego website, which of course, you know, is pretty fantastic. But this particular site is really connected to the competencies. And that's one of the things that I really liked about it. When we think about building communication skills, problem solving, collaboration, managing information, all of those types of things, So while combining competencies with the science outcomes, you can see that I've selected applying creativity when designing instructions. So this comes from the computer science organizing idea. And also students investigate creativity and its relationship to computational thinking in grade 3. So this particular selection is, it's called ArtBots, and it's one that you can use. It walks you through how to create a robot that can draw all by itself. And it's tagged for students aged 6 through 9, and it gives you how many people, the materials that you need, and it walks you through step-by-step instructions for how you might create your art bot and what that could look like. So a design experiment, you could use the design cycle. There's lots of different ways that you could engage students and also practice the computational thinking around creating and following step-by-step instructions. This idea here connects to it as well. It's called a brick music sequence, where students use Lego or other kinds of blocks, and they create a corresponding pattern that they have to respond through actions with. So a musical sequence. So if they do like a blue, a red, and a yellow block in an order, blue might mean clapping, red might mean stomping, green might mean do the chicken dance or whatever it is you want to do. So then they create these sequences and have to follow and show that symbolic correspondence. So another way to tackle some of those interesting outcomes while also engaging in active and hopefully fun experiences. How are we doing so far? Am I coming up with anything you might use? I'm watching the chat to see what you think. Let's go on to the next one. Mystery science. I had a hard time leaving this site because it was really that good. And there were so many different outcomes that I felt like I could dig into, and I just felt captivated and interested in all of these different things. So this one I did sign up for, and there's a lot of free resources. How is your life like an alligator's life? Thinking about life cycles. And you can see in this one that it gives you an overall idea of what the exploration can be like, how you can use those hands-on experiences and activities, and what can be useful in that idea. Always knowing that even though we might get supplementary resources from a site, we really want to be able to get our hands on them and get kids involved as much as possible. So my hope is that this will be a springboard for inspiration and ideas so that you can really build on that conceptual knowledge and support the learning through that way. And so thanks, Lorraine, for your comment about eventually having to buy. Sometimes they're like that, but I definitely wanted you to check out the free ones as well. Can you build a house out of paper? Kind of another design challenge. And there is explicit CUSPs, the knowledge, understanding, skills, and procedures that tie right into grade 3 science around the Earth's surface, explaining how the layers of the landscape hold stories of the past, which leans into your fossils and dinosaurs and that realm, which I know that your students will really love. And so you'll find some great resources there for you. All right, now this one I actually got from my math colleagues, and it's really awesome, particularly if you have colleagues that teach older grades as well. I would pass this one on to them, and I'm sure they'll trade you for a coffee when they see it. The PhET interactive simulations for science and math. So you could probably, I didn't tag math ones for you specifically, but for these two examples, I pulled something that would investigate pathways and behaviors of light and sound. So you can see that I have a light one pulled here. And also grade 3, investigating how forces affect the movement of objects. And so a few of these here, you will be able to see that once you pull into the, I hope it just signs me right in. I got to sign in. I should have done that ahead of time. I apologize. Once you get in, and then you can play with the content a little bit. And so what happens is you can choose the light bulb and you can activate these buttons. So you can click the light and then you can add in a filter. And so if I put a blue filter on this one and we start to push play, and you can activate the filter. And so it's a little bit, it goes into more depth than is required from the curriculum at this level, but it does give students a chance to play with it and to understand that a filter will actually remove that element of color from the vision that they're able to see. And the cool part about it is that you can actually get right into the teaching resources, the activities, and all of the information that you need about it. So check this out. I know that you will, that one will take a little bit of time to play with, but they do walk you through in a video of like, push this button and this is what will happen. It walks us through it as teachers so that we know what we're doing in a quick amount of time, but it definitely encourages that exploration and for students to play with it a little bit so that they can come to that understanding. And then you can clarify it by giving them that experience, letting them talk about what they're seeing, ask those provoking questions, and then getting them to see what they can add or change to be able to demonstrate their understanding. This one here is quite interesting. It's just like a classic tug of war. I lost the words for a moment. Forgive me, please. So I would absolutely get students into the gym or outside and trying to model what this tug of war could look like. But the idea is that you can pick up these little humans and you can talk about the sum of forces. There's a couple of different things that you can indicate. There's speedometers and the all of the measurements that can go. And so you can see that if they start pulling with equal force, it's not moving at all. But if we take a slightly larger human and we start to add additional force, then it will pull, and that some of the forces will win. So definitely great to do in person, but then also something that you can demonstrate and model and talk about how that force can really make sense. There's some that talk about friction and movement and turns, all those kinds of things. So it would be really valuable to check it out. Any questions or comments? I'm just talking away here. I hope you're getting what you need from the ideas. I've got the chat on, so let me know if you need anything. All right, so Green Learning. This is a really well done website and source as well. And you can see that I've pulled multiple outcomes from investigating the earth, landforms, growth and development of plants. Although I could have done forces and matter and energy in this site as well, I'm just trying to create a variation and a variety of how these pieces might actually connect. This particular one, it's a 30 to 45 minute lesson, and there's actually a video included inside, and it's really well done. I think that the vocabulary and the presentation of the materials is age appropriate and engaging. The videography is fantastic, and there's this cutesy character named Echo that will join the kids and kind of acts as a narrator through that learning. I also think because plastics in our oceans can be a really gloomy topic to uncover, particularly if you just looked into the garbage patch or some of those things. It really presents it in a realistic but an optimistic way. And so I think that for this age group is really the right way to go. So I hope you will check it out and let me know about all the other ways that you can use Green Learning as a site. All right, so Scratch Junior, this particular one you've likely heard about, maybe you've even got experience with it. I'd love to hear it in the chat. This is a particular, it's an app-based site that is free for use on iPad, Android tablets, or Chromebooks. And it's really quite amazing the ways in which Scratch Junior enables students to be successful in computational thinking and putting together coded instructions that will activate the screen in an interesting way. So let me just show you a quick little clip that articulates a little bit about what Scratch Junior can do.
We're working on Scratch Junior, which is a programming language for young kids, specifically designed for 5 to 7-year-olds, and is designed with them in mind, so it's developmentally appropriate, and children can create animated stories, interactive games, collages, or anything they imagine.
I like Scratch Junior because there's so many programs that you could make. It's like you can make your own movie. You basically get to make your own game and do it yourself.
A few years ago, my research group at the MIT Media Lab introduced Scratch, a new programming language that lets kids ages 8 and up create their own interactive stories and games and animations. And kids around the world have been making millions of projects with Scratch.
A couple of years ago, we started a collaboration with Mitch at the MIT Media Lab to explore how we could extend Scratch for a version that's specifically designed for young children.
Here's how the game works. You have to guess which one from this row makes which one from this row invisible, and you win if you get all 3 right.
Computer programming, or coding, is like a new form of writing, a new type of literacy. Like writing, when people learn to code, they learn new ways of organizing their thinking, new ways of expressing ideas. So when you learn to code, you're learning many other things. You're not just learning to code, you're coding to learn. Now, until now, people have generally seen coding as something very difficult, accessible only to a small subset of the population. But that's starting to change. We really think that coding can be and should be for everyone.
All right. Thank you, Kim, for popping into the chat about your experiences with Scratch Junior. It really is accessible to even kindergarten students and possibly younger, because you can see this clip that I've captured here, the interface guide, in terms of its accessibility. It's really image driven, and I think it's very intuitive in the way that it flows. Would you agree, Kim? I put you on the spot there and actually talk to you. Okay, you're going to use the chat. Awesome. Thank you. So if you, and I know that sometimes device sort of availability or the quality or the reliability of devices in schools can really be tenuous. And so one thing that you could do is to try to create just a small center. If you had 1 or 2 devices in a space at a time that the kids could rotate through. And there's lots of different ways that you can do it. You can even have one that is connected to a smart board so that you can see how it can be done, and you can talk through some of those pieces and give students other opportunities to try to code, or maybe they act out some of the pieces while using paper codes that can be representative of different actions that will happen. So give it a try, and I hope that will help you feel more excited about those computer science outcomes that are now involved in our science curriculum. Okay, so this next one is an oldie but a goodie. PBS Learning Media, the quality of their site has really improved over the years. And I actually shared this particular one yesterday at our kindergarten and grade 1 session, but I pulled different materials for those as well. You'll really find that it transcends the grades and has lots of opportunities for different pieces. This particular one that I pulled would be really something fun to do in real life with students, assuming their parents are on board, of course. But you can see that this particular video, I'm just going to turn off the sound so that I can talk through it. But and I'm also going to put the speed up, and it's sort of like a time lapse that shows what the summer and winter daylight looks like from that sunrise and sunset in summer and winter. And so this site also has downloadable materials. You can offer a student view and a teacher view. So you could pop this into Google Classroom or share a link with students in a way that works for you and your LMS. And so it just gives that scientific perspective and the documentation that can sometimes be hard to capture on your own. And because it's tagged for kindergarten to grade 2, which obviously it's interesting to me as well, and I I already finished grade 2, but I would like to say that I really appreciated the quality of the materials and the ways in which it supports our own background knowledge, but also how it can connect to different aspects of curriculum. The other one that I pulled for us today is all about matter. And similar to some of the other pieces that I've pulled, the vocabulary and the accessibility and the language, the ways in which they're communicating these scientific concepts are really strong. The pace, the accessibility, I think that the short nature of these videos can offer you the chance to watch them over and over again, or to help clarify while you've got kids playing with ice and water and looking at how that sort of evaporation can be considered a gas. It's a great video link with appropriate materials to go with it. So PBS Learning Media, another one that's full of goodies for you. Okay, now I know that I'm going to have to like keep my excitement at bay. If you haven't been to the Kids Should See This website yet, I'm sorry, but the rest of your day is going to be occupied watching fantastic videos and looking for really great connections to all sorts of things. I had to limit myself to 4 different selections on the slide here today. The first one I want to show you is a connection to students investigating and explaining how forces affect movement of objects. And so the Kids Should See This website is actually curated videos that are all appropriate to access for kids of all ages. And you can see on this toggle bar at the top that the topics and the nature of these videos are really, really wide. And they're all of such high quality. You're really going to get looped in. Like I said, apologies for the time you might spend being entertained on this one. Here's a little sample of one called Cats and Domino. And I really thought that it might be a nice provocation for a conversation around movement and how materials are use forces. Little Rube Goldberg for us here. Oh, and there's a stop. We also have outcomes that talk about how animals move and why they might move. They might move for food, they might move for protection, for safety. And within the cusps, you can find all of those different aspects of movement, how those dominoes would be connected and how that pressure creates that flow. Got to do a little bit of yoga here. Wondering if it's going, and there it goes for the rest of it. I had to let us watch that. Okay, I will stop it there. I know it's such a cliffhanger. You're going to have to watch the rest later. But you can see that these interesting videos can be great motivators and provocations for some actual hands-on experiences in class. Now I have to show you this one because when you think about how students have to analyze and describe how plants and animals interact with each other and the environment, this beautiful collection this clip that I found in the Kids Should See This. You can get these directly sent to your email, by the way. For all the times we wondered what's actually going on in the bird's nest, this person put a camera inside a chickadee nest box for 54 days. And it's quite an amazing journey, really. There's background knowledge. The video is 20 minutes, but it really goes through and talks a little bit about, it's very engaging. The language is accessible to young students, and you get to start to see how the days are all counted in a scientific way. It models that scientific observation and tracking the days and the time and what might be happening. And you could even do it little bits at a time to see what's happening in the bird box. And so here they've been able to capture, the parents grabbing all the different pieces and how the nest is being built up and the movement that comes within that. I'm going to jump ahead here for interest of our time. I know it's spoiling it a little bit. And then suddenly around day 18 and 19, you can start to see the eggs forming in there. And she's really nestling in, and there they are. And it's so amazing. And so as you can guess, the box is just observed there. When there's a threat on the outside, you can see what's happening. And there's often, and then you can see when these little chicks are being fed and watching their little beaks open up, and you see that big white beak. Anyways, it's totally fascinating. And I just couldn't help but share this one with you. This particular video over here is a young person who is able to make all kinds of different animal sounds using his violin, linking into the behaviors of light and sound. And this one here actually is a visual representation of what sound looks like. So check it out. It's really going to create some great conversation and some opportunities for students to get their hands on different sounds and try to visualize and maybe draw out what those sound waves could look like. Anybody interested in any of these so far? Yesterday, people thought that they might want to use the cat one. I admit I shared it at the grade 1 session as well. They were like, I'm doing that tomorrow. That one sounds great. So I hope you like it. I would be remiss not to share with you the resources that are available on New Learn Alberta that are directly connected to your science outcomes. And there's 2 ways that you can find and access the best resources for each learner outcome. And so I'm going to pop over to Learn Alberta, which I've been in and out all day. So I'm just going to make sure that I am signed in so that I can get all of the opening access to each of the resources. If you don't yet have your login, please make sure you check in to be able to do that, because it's the very best way to access those resources. So now the first way that you can access the resources connected to outcomes is to go into the curriculum as you would in this digital version, not the printable, I mean by that. And so if you go into science and choose your grade level, when you hover over top of a learning outcome, I'm just scrolling through to grab one here. So here, for example, when you see the green learning outcomes, if you hover on top of it, you will get this share icon as well as a little lowercase I in a circle. Sometimes I say I and people are looking for eyeballs, so I'm trying to be more specific about that. When you click on that, on the I, it gives you what's called a flyout. And in this flyout, which is actually a really lovely, clean view of the organizing idea, guiding question and learning outcome, you can see that it gives you a list of the cusps and you can toggle across to resources. And now for this particular outcome of students investigate the behaviors of light and sound, you can see that we have 2 Pearson literacy readers at grade level that explore the science of light and sound. And if you're logged in, you'll be able to go right to that resource and open it up on your screen. You can also click on the Go
Light
button,
makes a rainbow. Sharon Cohn.
and your friend can
Light makes a rainbow.
read it
Sharon
out loud.
Cohn.
And so those are available for you. Some learner outcomes have many different resources, and some of them have a few, but it's definitely continually being updated, and more are being posted all the time. The second way that you can check out resources that are available is to go into the Explore Resources section. And in this part of New Learn Alberta, I would encourage you to really play with the filters and start to tag resources that you like. And so if I go in here and I select grades 2 and 3, for example, and I can go into science. Now you can see I could select a resource type or language. We've got great French resources as well as in English for those of you that are teaching French immersion. But you can see the collection of literacy readers as in English and French, as well as some gizmos. Gizmos are really great in the sense that they are also interactive tools. We will be offering sessions directly instructed by Gizmos to give you some tips on how to use them and how to activate them. But this particular one is has this slant here, and what you can do is you can manipulate this to create some friction, and you drag ants to the bottom to see how many of them it will take to push the blueberry up, and if they can do it. There's too much friction. If we deactivate the friction, maybe we need more ants. So you can play with it in that way and play with the different materials as well. So it's called Gizmos, and it's another way that you can activate some of the learning experiences and get kids involved. Now, I think it would be most interesting to set up an inclined plane in your classroom and try to have them actually working with those materials in a hands-on way, but also then referencing it on this resource so that they can see both from that scientific perspective as well as what it feels like to move with that kind of friction and move it up like that. Or maybe you are walking the hills on your school ground and talking about the inclined plane and what that feels like. Maybe you're using phys ed equipment and creating the conditions in the gym. So that's another opportunity for you. You can also see that sometimes there are recommendations for books that are not included as a resource, but maybe one that you could look to include in your school library. So there's actually quite a lot of resources available to you. If you haven't yet checked out the Mathology Little Books or the Pearson Readers, this one here is a Mathology resource, and it connects both to, you can see that it's not just to the science outcomes, but it goes to science in grade 1, it has ELAL in grade 2, math grade 2, ELAL in grade 3, math grade 3. So it's transdisciplinary in that way. And the little books are similar to the Pearson Readers, where like quality illustrations and the language is really accessible. The students can have it read aloud to them as well, or you could use this as a teaching resource for a whole or small group. All right, so those were the two ways that you can access New Learn Alberta resources that are there for you. Okay, now this next one is possibly the gold mine you are looking for. The ARPDC science team, so my colleagues across the province, have been working really hard to create a toolkit of resources for the new science curriculum and the implementation of that. So if you click on this tile here on your slide deck, it will take you to the ARPDC website, and I'm just going to go back a little bit so you can get a sense of where I am. The new curriculum professional learning resources. There's resources in all of the subject areas so far. And when you go into science, you will see that you can toggle between different grades. So you can select, I'm going to do grade 2 just for this example. And several of my colleagues have been working on specific slide decks and webinars, as well as resources that go right into a particular organizing idea. So this one, for example, is grade 2 living systems, and you can see that there is a video, additional slides, and a resource link here that can support you in teaching the living systems organizing idea and all of the outcomes that fall within that realm. In addition to this, you'll see here's grade 3 living systems. They are working so quickly and building these fantastic resources. Every day there seems to be more. They're quite amazing. Here you will also find the concept progressions that we talked about in session 1 and curriculum comparison documents for those of you that want to compare from one to another. And so just scroll down into this spot and you'll see that there's also an introductory video that could supplement the work that we're doing here around how you might get to where you want to go with your science curriculum. So I hope that you'll please make time to check out the ARPDC website and dig into some of those resources a little bit more. I know that I've probably just created more work for you. I apologize, but I hope that you'll leave feeling equipped with at least one more resource than you had before, and a bit of optimism for the fun that you can have with students, getting them active and learning in that way. I additionally wanted to share with you a couple of resources that can help to infuse the Indigenous ways of knowing that we referred to at the beginning. This video here is appropriate for K-6 and is a conversation with students and Elder Wilson Barehead around how to become a knowledge keeper. Here's an example of talking circles and also classroom activities that come from our website called Empowering the Spirit. This learning circle document is full of different connections to parts of our science curriculum, as well as all of the other areas from that Indigenous perspective. So I wanted to make sure that you had easy access to some of those pieces there. And of course, I can't stop at 10. So there's a few more links here. Can't forget Bill Nye, the science guy. And please check out this little avocado film. It's quite beautiful and clearly an award winner. So I hope you'll have a few minutes to check that one out. It comes from the Kids Should See This video or collection that we shared. So at this point, I'd like to ask you, how many I wonders do you have? Do you have any questions or thoughts, comments that you would be willing to share with me today, either in the chat or go ahead and turn your microphone on? Any thoughts? Yes, Farzana, the recording will be sent out after it's completed today. And I'm glad to do that. Thank you. I hope that this has been useful. And I want to share with you that, oh, this didn't come out very well. Next week, our work will be around making transdisciplinary connections and pulling this together with literacy and math and art and science all together. So good luck with everything. I hope you are enjoying the series so far. Any feedback is very welcome. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.